This is a music theory video on cadences. Now, before you watch this video, you should make sure that you understand what functions of chords are. So what letters mean, for example, when we go here, chord 1, 5 to 1, what these functions mean. There's a special video for that. If you look at chords in the D Aeolian mode and their functions, that will be quite helpful. Also, you should know what inversions are so you can identify chords in different inversions, because I will use inversions to work with cadences in this video. If you're not sure, look at the videos on the presentation or come and see me if things are unclear. Okay, first, what are cadences? If you refer cadences are often referred to as the full stops and commas in music. Now, full stops and commas in language usually happen at the end of phrases. A full stop usually at the end of a full sentence, a comma in the middle, so it highlights an end, but you still know that there's something coming. The full stops and commas we refer to as finished and unfinished cadences. Finished cadences mark sort of the overall end of a larger entity, while an unfinished cadence might be the end of a phrase, but you know that something else is coming. That's just one example. So through using different cadences at the end of a chord sequence, you will create a certain atmosphere, a certain feeling, and certain expectations with the listener. Now, when you talk about cadences, I talk about the last two chords of a chord sequence. So how does the chord sequence end? So what's the last chord in terms of the function, and from where does that chord come? We distinguish between finished and unfinished cadences, and within each we distinguish between two different ones. There are some more, obviously, but these are the most common, so these are the ones that we'll have a look at. The perfect cadence is a cadence that comes from chord 5 and ends on chord 1. So if we go on the C major scale, for example, the chord 5 would be the G major, the chord 1 would be the C major. That's the most common cadence that happens a lot in pop music, in all sorts of music really, and it marks a very, very strong end, hence the name perfect cadence. The plagial cadence also ends on chord 1, but comes from 4, so in C major that would be, for example, an F major. It also marks an end, but might not feel quite as strong as the perfect cadence. Excuse me. Unfinished cadence, on the other hand, do not end on 1. The imperfect cadence, for example, comes from any chord and ends on a 5. And the interrupted chorus comes from a 5 and ends on a 4. The imperfect cadence, ending on a G major, for example, when you're in a C major scale, it does mark an end, but sort of you expect that the music will go on after. The interrupted cadence is, I would call, quite a weak cadence at the end, so it does mark, it's a bit of a surprise really. It does mark an end but of a phrase, but maybe not even less strong than this one. I would suggest that you just play around with that a bit as well and see what you like. And I mean, there's no right or wrong. Unfinished and finished doesn't refer to the quality, like finished is always better than unfinished. On the contrary, sometimes an unfinished cadence makes a lot more sense than a finished cadence, and the other way around. So these are just names, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, let's have a look at that, how that sounds in music. I have examples for perfect plagial cadence, imperfect cadence, 2 for imperfect cadence, and for interrupted cadence. Let's play the first one. This is D minor, G minor, A minor, and D minor. I used the scale of D Aeolian because this is the scale you will be composing in. So then that way you have some examples already on how to use them. So if D minor, G minor, A minor, D minor, so going from a 5 to a 1 at the end, which is a perfect cadence. Now you realize at the end it does sound like it's finished. You don't necessarily need something else. It could be the end of a song at this cadence, right? Let's have a look at the plagial cadence, which will also end on a 1, but actually will come from a 4. Again, it does sound finished, maybe not quite as strong as coming from the A minor. The G minor is maybe a bit less strong, but nevertheless, ending on the 1 does create that sense of, okay, this is finished. We're going to have a look at a few of the unfinished cadences and see what feeling they create. So we do the imperfect cadence, 2 examples for the imperfect cadence. One's coming from a 1 and one's coming from a 4. So one's coming from D minor, one's from G major. Okay, so you realize it does seem like you marking an end here. However, it does feel okay, there needs to be something else coming. A song or overall couldn't be ending on A minor when you're in D minor. It couldn't be ending on the 5 really. So it does mark the end of a phrase, but doesn't seem quite finished. Let's have a listen to the other one, which will create a very similar feeling. It's just coming from a 4 to a 5. Okay, so very similar. So it doesn't really matter in an imperfect cadence where you come from, um, but this would be, they sort of create the end of a phrase, but not like a full stop really. And lastly, the interrupted case and cadence going from a 5 to a 4. Let's have a listen to that. Okay, so I could mark an end phrase with that, but probably in terms of how it feels, it's the least of strongness of ending. It doesn't really create that sense of an ending here. Um, as I said before, it doesn't mean that that will be bad. It always depends what you want to create, right? So it doesn't mean you can never end on this or you shouldn't be ending on this, but you should have a reason for yourself why you do it. And I guess you can play around with that a bit as well. Just one thing that I want to highlight when you compose for the stronger ones. Often when you use the, well, right now all these chords are in D Aeolian mode, which is the natural minor. And the only accidental that we have is the B flat here. Very often in minor, when you talk about minor, you talk about natural minor and you talk about the harmonic minor. Harmonic minor because often in the 5, when you have the 5, you actually use an A major. And let me just play these through all these here with an A major. I get an A major by making the C a C sharp. So I'm going to do these for all these and we're going to have a listen to that again. Especially in cadences, it makes it often sound a bit stronger. So you will have to see it is perfectly fine. Oops, sorry, this shouldn't be 1 because that's an F, but major, but here an A major. So now disregard the signs, now this would be an A major chord. So you can use when composing also the A major chord compared to the A minor chord, and it will sound like this for all the cadences. Okay, okay, so you might have heard, especially towards the end now, that that didn't feel quite like a ending at the end. Oh, by the way, this was a mistake here, because that's an F sharp, F major, so we don't need a sharp here, that doesn't work then. Okay, so this is what cadences are. Maybe a short suggestion. I put some ideas together on, where do I have it? Sorry. I put some ideas together on something or some tips when you work with them. So again, cadence happens at the end of the phrases. It's when you're composing, look at your lyrics. There will be natural pauses at the end of phrases, where it makes sense to have a cadence, right? So usually we talk about 2 to 4 bars maybe for a phrase, and then there's a certain pause. So the pause often in lyrics also will come with a pause within within the chords, sort of a end of a phrase. So cadences are not only at the end of a song, but at the end of phrases in general. Again, a finished cadence will create a feeling of a full stop. An unfinished cadence will leave the listener waiting for more. Think about what, especially when we compose the verse and the chorus, think about which cadence you would prefer and why. So for example, having maybe a finished cadence at the end of the verse doesn't really create this transition into the chorus. So having an unfinished cadence at the end of the verse, well, people maybe have waiting them more for the chorus because there's the sense this is not finished, I need more. So that might be the chorus then coming in might have a stronger start because of that feeling of wanting more. So these are just all ideas that you can think about It's important that you play around with it a bit and see what you like. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. And I'll talk to you in the next video.